Welcome into a brand new episode of Flyers Daily here on the Flyers Broadcast Network. I'm Brian Smith in for Jason Myrtetus here on this 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Flyers Daily is always brought to you by Ticketmaster, Make More Memories Live. And we have a very special guest here today on this edition of Flyers Daily. It is Porter Martone, Flyers draft pick from this past draft. Porter, welcome. I guess let's start by the whirlwind here, I'm sure, over the last week. Can you kind of sum it up for us, what this has been like?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's my pleasure. Like you said, it's been a whirlwind. These past week and 2 weeks, it's been something special. Lots of emotions for sure as well. Got down to LA with my family, kind of going through the whole draft process. You kind of not knowing where you're going to land. And then, one day, at draft day, you hear your name get picked by the Flyers. And, I was just ecstatic. I was very happy. I think my mold kind of fits into what the Flyers bring and, what I can help to their team on a nightly basis. So I'm really excited to join this organization, and I'm definitely really excited to continue to keep on going here.
Well, before we get too far into the camp, I want to get to this photo because this has been all the rage as of late. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you see it. If you're just listening, check out the Flyers social channels. This photo with Wayne Simmons, which made my back hurt as soon as I saw it because I don't feel this old. Like, everything in this photo looks the same. Like that rink looks the same. Simmer looks the same. That bike rack is still downstairs. You, however, don't.
Yeah.
When do you remember when this was taken? How old you were? That sort of thing.
I think I was 8 years old.
Okay.
My team came down here for a little trip. We watched a practice. Got to go to a game, and we actually played at the Wells Fargo before the game. Yep. So I remember there's probably like 50 of us banging on the glass, and Wayne and there's a couple other guys. Took time of their day to come, take some photos with us. And then who knew down the road, we would actually be working together.
There we go.
And on the same team, he's a development person here, just helping me out here throughout development camp. And it's so crazy that you go back and look at that. He never know that he might not meet that kid again, and then one day that's me, and I'm drafted to the Flyers organization, and it's pretty cool. It was a pretty special moment to look back on.
I gotta be honest, it was a surprise to us that he was here too. We didn't know he was coming until he came out, but he's been doing a couple of things for us here since he retired. He's based up there north of Toronto, which I'm sure you're familiar with the area, but he's done a couple of things for us. We're really glad to have him here. What's it been like here in the early goings, kind of learning from these guys? I know you met John LeClaire at the draft, and probably some other names that you've heard of here. What's the early returns on what some of these guys are talking to you about in the camp?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. These guys, they know what you're talking about. You can tell they know what they're talking about. So for me, I'm just taking everything in. I'm coming here to get better. I'm coming on here to, work on things that I need to, work on to get to the next level. And, that's what they're here to help. I think I'm learning a lot of things here that I could take with me throughout the summer, and keep on working on things that they're telling me to do. So these guys lots of them playing in the NHL. They know what they're talking about. So, when they're telling you something, you listen. So that's something that I've noticed here, and I think everyone here too. They're really good at their job. They want to make you better, and they want to get you to the next level. So you just go in there and just you give it your all. You compete, you work, and you just take all the skills that they're teaching you.
Your dad played professionally. It sounds like you've been around the game your whole life. Was that part of growing up, being around locker rooms with him? Was the timing right? I don't know exactly what it was, but
no. He kind of played before my time, before I was born. But he was always out on the ice with me. Teaching me. Taught me how to skate. Taught me how to shoot. Taught me how to stick handle. And still to this day, he comes out and kind of takes me through some drills. So he went through it. It was great to bounce things off him, and still to this day, he's always a phone call away. So it's pretty special if someone who's kind of been through, hockey before.
So you come to the Flyers. I understand they talked to you a little bit before the draft. And if I'm not mistaken, your billet family had Owen Tippett.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what had you heard stuff about the team at all before the pick? Obviously you'd been able to come down here and see some things. So you had a little bit of working knowledge. Yeah.
Well, so Owen Tippett, I billet them. Tyson Forster, Konechny, Sanheim, I put them with the World Championships.
Yeah.
So they did nothing but rave about the Flyers. They love Philly. They love being here. So, I could kind of tell just the way that they were, the friendships that they had, the way they act in the room, that, the Flyers were a very fun team to be on. Great culture here. So, I heard nothing but great things about the organization when I did get picked. I could just tell why it's such a first-class organization, why everyone wants to play in Philly. So, I'm very happy, and I'm very excited to join, this team.
Tell me about that Worlds thing, because that I think that flew under the radar a little bit. That you're not even drafted yet, and of all the players Canada could have chosen when they needed somebody, they came to you. How'd that all come together, and then what was that experience like?
Yeah, so I went over there for the 2 pre-tournament games. I thought I was only going to play, those 2 games and kind of go home with a couple other guys, waiting for the other NHL guys to come. And I was actually put on a line with Mac and Celebrini and Travis Konechny over there, and we kind of we connected really good. And we found the score sheet kind of quite a bit and won the exhibition games. And we just played a good overall game. And then after that game, they kind of asked me if I wanted to just come be around, be the 14th forward, learn from Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, and all the other players, and practice with them every day and be with them every day. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I'm going there. I'm going to learn from them, kind of get a bit of taste of the NHL lifestyle. And then unfortunately, Bo Horvath got injured, and they asked me to step in the lineup, and I was going to go and give whatever I had. And I realized I went over there that I felt like I could play with NHL players, and it's pretty special to represent your country with all these NHL players.
We talk about here sometimes just getting a guy that's coming up, just getting him into like one NHL game or something like that, just kind of gives an idea of what it's like, because you've been thinking about it your whole life, and people tell you what it's like, but you don't really know until you get there and you play in the game. Did that kind of have that effect on you? That you get in, even though it's not necessarily a full NHL roster, you get in there and you play with those guys, and it gives you kind of a taste of what you got to get ready for, I think.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I was playing with some of the best players in the world, and I think my first game I stepped in was against Sweden in Sweden. So it was a pretty crazy atmosphere. And I think my first shift I was on the ice against Lucas Raymond, Philip Forsberg, and William Karlsson. So then that kind of sunk me. It's like, it's real now.
Yeah.
And, I'm playing against the best. So it was pretty special, and it's always an honor to play for Team Canada.
So, you get drafted, and obviously that's you've been working for that for years, right? But it's a milestone. It's part of the journey, right? Is that kind of your view here as you move forward? And, now it's, just time to, keep on climbing the ladder, so to speak, here after, and now you got a little bit more focus on where you're headed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the draft does come. You kind of see where you can draft. You see the organization you go to, and now the real work starts. Mm-hmm. For me, I want to have a big summer. And I come into training camp and, try to earn my spot. So for me, it is the draft, very special moment. You be where your feet are at during the draft. You celebrate that day, but then after that, you got to get back to work, and you haven't accomplished your goal yet until you're in the NHL and you're in a successful organization that hopefully is winning Stanley Cups.
So what does that look like for you now here for the rest of the summer? Your plans on what you do now after this camp, and getting ready for main training camp coming up in the fall here, and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think for me, just get stronger in the gym, just in the lower body. I think overall my skating, put on some strength and some muscle, and then just continue to stay on the ice, stay fresh. And then when I do come into training camp, just be ready to go. You're going to be going against NHL players. It's going to be competitive. And like I said, for me, I'm just not going to get given a spot on the team. I'm going to have to earn it. So I'm going to come in, give it my all. And hopefully I believe in my skill set, believe in my hockey ability. But, I want to come in and just compete, and just be a competitor out there, and, hopefully earn a spot on the opening night roster.
Awesome. Well, Porter, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Really glad to have you here, obviously. We're really excited about the future, and we'll see where it goes here. But enjoy the rest of the camp, and we'll catch you down the road here.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on.
All right. That is a brand new episode of Flyers Daily here on the Flyers Broadcast Network. We hope you have a fantastic holiday weekend, and we'll be back with you on Monday. Jason will be back with Mondays with Meltzer, as he and Bill will sit down and break down development camp and where the Flyers go from here for the rest of the summer. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you on Monday.